Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling invisible, like your words didn't land, like you weren't heard? You don't need to raise your voice to prove your worth. In fact, the Stoics believed the strongest response is often no response. Not because you're powerless, but because you're wise enough to choose silence as strength. And yet, silence can be a double-edged sword. People will test your boundaries rarely with shouting or open insults. Instead, they cross the line subtly, quietly, and repeatedly, until you start shrinking just to make them more comfortable. They interrupt you mid-sentence, like your thoughts aren't worth finishing. They arrive late, like your time doesn't matter. They mask cruelty as just jokes, or worse, go silent. Not to keep peace, but to punish you. It's not always obvious at first. You might brush it off, thinking they didn't mean it. But when these things keep happening, a painful realization sets in. They don't respect your voice. From a Stoic lens that matters deeply, to the Stoic speech wasn't just communication, it was logos. Your words are a reflection of your mind. To interrupt someone isn't just rude, it's a form of mental domination. It says, what I have to say is more important. Your thoughts can wait. Mine can't. Epictetus once said, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. And someone who constantly interrupts, they aren't learning because they aren't listening. But here's the deeper danger. When someone disrespects you like this, the real damage doesn't come from them. It comes from what you start to believe about yourself. You speak less. You second-guess your voice. You wonder if your thoughts even deserve to be heard. That is the real threat. Internalized disrespect. In this episode, we'll uncover 6 subtle forms of disrespect that often go unnoticed, and more importantly, how a Stoic handles each one with strength, self-mastery, and strategic clarity. Because this isn't just about protecting your ego. It's about defending your energy, your dignity, your peace of mind. Self-respect starts where self-mastery begins. Let's dive in. How emotional erosion begins one interruption at a time rarely starts with something dramatic. It starts with something we often overlook, an interruption. Most people who interrupt regularly don't even realize they're doing it. That doesn't excuse the behavior, but it does reveal something deeper beneath the surface. Insecurity disguised as control, compulsive need to be right, an inflated sense of self-importancia, lack of emotional self-regulation. In short, emotional immaturity. And when you let it slide without setting a boundary, you're not just tolerating disrespect, you're teaching people how to treat you. How the Stoics respond, not with noise, but with presence. The Stoics didn't believe in shouting to prove a point. They didn't fight for attention through arguments. They believed in anchored presence, staying grounded, and leading others back to clarity through calm strength. So what does that look like when someone cuts you off mid-sentence? The 3-step Stoic strategy to handle interruptions. 1. Keep talking, but slower when we get interrupted. Most of us instinctively go silent. We don't want to be rude or create tension, but silence in that moment only reinforces the imbalance. Instead, continue speaking, but slow it down. Lower your tone. Make each word intentional. Own your space, because calmness disarms confrontation. Your presence quietly says, I'm not shaken, I'm not competing, but I will not disappear. 2. Use their name to regain the floor. Once you finish your thought, gently but firmly bring their attention back. Address them directly. Mike, I'd love to hear your thoughts right after I finish this. Mom, I know you want to respond. Just give me a second to complete my point. Using someone's name is powerful. It breaks the momentum without breaking connection. It's not confrontation, it's direction. And in any social dynamic, direction always beats reaction. Point 3. Give the floor back on your terms once you've said what needed to be said. Show composure by inviting their voice back in. You're not doing it because you owe them. You're doing it because you're grounded enough not to fear interruption. All right. Mike, I'd really like to hear your take now. This move sends 2 signals. You're emotionally mature. You didn't dominate. You led. You're unshakable. You don't fear losing the floor because you own your presence. Do you respect your own voice? Let's turn the lens inward for a moment. Because every external disrespect often starts with self-disrespect we've allowed for too long. So ask yourself, do I respect my voice enough to protect it? To finish my thoughts without apology? To speak without shrinking? The Stoics taught that external validation is fragile, but internal clarity is unshakable. When someone talks over you, it's not just about dominance. It's a test of your composure, a test of whether you believe your words matter, even when others pretend they don't. You don't need to yell. You don't need to raise your voice. You just need to stand in the stillness of your truth and let the room adjust to your presence. Because real power isn't proven through noise. It's felt through conviction. Final thought for chapter 1. Next time someone interrupts you, ask yourself, am I here to be liked or to be heard? If your words carry truth, speak them. If your voice is grounded in reason, let it stand. And if someone tries to steamroll your thoughts, stand taller, speak slower, finish strong. That's how a Stoic earns respect, without ever demanding it. Am I being too sensitive? That question might seem harmless, but when you find yourself asking it too often, it slowly chips away at something crucial. Your right to feel. Dismissive language isn't just rude. It's a subtle form of emotional. Because if someone can make you doubt your own feelings, they'll never have to take responsibility for their actions. The Stoic view, emotions are signals, not enemies. Stoicism is often misunderstood. Many people assume it teaches us to suppress emotions, but that's not true at all. The Stoics didn't reject emotion. They rejected being ruled by it. Don't be controlled by your emotions. Let them inform you, not command you. Epictetus' feelings aren't weakness. They are data. They are internal signals showing us what matters. When something hurts, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means something important has been touched. So when someone dismisses your emotions, they're not helping you become more rational. They're just avoiding self-reflection. They're protecting their ego. They're trying to rewrite your reality so they don't have to face their own impact. That's not maturity. That's manipulation disguised as logic. Why people dismiss emotions when someone tells you to calm down instead of listening. When they mock your reaction instead of asking why you feel that way. It's usually because they're uncomfortable with emotions, especially their own. Emotions require accountability, and accountability requires vulnerability. Some people would rather silence your feelings than face their own guilt. That's why they change the subject. That's why they blame your reaction instead of owning their words. That's why they act like you are the problem, not their behavior. The Stoic response: stay grounded, not defensive. You don't need someone's permission to feel. One of the most powerful truths you can embrace is this: I don't need you to agree with how I feel for my feelings to be valid. In other words, I feel what I feel. I don't need your approval to have an emotional experience. And I won't shrink myself just to keep you comfortable. 3 Stoic moves when your feelings are dismissed. 1. Anchor yourself first before you react. Breathe. Don't rush to defend. Don't lash out. Don't collapse inward. Just remind yourself, my emotions are valid. My experience is real. I don't need to prove it to anyone. That pause. That's your power. It's the space between stimulus and response, and it's where your freedom lives. 2. Name the tactic out loud or internally if it's safe and appropriate. Calmly say, I'm not overreacting. I'm reacting to something that matters to me. If they continue dismissing, if you cared about how I felt, you'd listen, not minimize. And even if you don't say it out loud, say it to yourself, because the worst thing you can do is gaslight yourself. 3. Don't argue. Reaffirm you. Don't need to debate your emotions. This isn't a courtroom. You're not on trial. Instead, reaffirm your boundary. You may not see it that way, but this affected me, and I have the right to say that. If necessary, end the conversation, not to punish them, but to protect your peace. Emotional intelligence isn't suppression, it's ownership. There's a false belief, especially among those who want to appear strong or logical, that emotions are noise, that logic alone should rule everything. But even Marcus Aurelius, the emperor and philosopher, knew better. If someone can show me I'm wrong, I'll gladly change my mind. When being late becomes a message aisle sitting in a cafe, you've checked the time twice. Your drink's already half gone. They texted, on my way, minus 20 minutes ago. And you start to wonder, am I overreacting? Should I just let it go? But deep down, something feels ... off. Not just because they're late, but because of what that lateness says about how they see you. Let's be honest, chronic lateness isn't just bad time management. It's a quiet message. My time matters more than yours. And to the Stoics, who valued order, discipline, and self-governance, that's something worth addressing. The Stoic view, time is sacred. The Stoics saw time not just as minutes ticking by, but as life's most sacred currency. Why? Because it's the one thing you can never get back. Seneca put it perfectly. It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. So when someone repeatedly makes you wait, with no apology, no awareness there, not just being casual, they're quietly stealing something irreplaceable. Your time, your presence, your dignity. And that's not just inconvenient, that's disrespect disguised as being easygoing. Chronic lateness, why it's deeper than you think. Let's be clear. We all run late sometimes. Life happens, emergencies, traffic, unpredictable moments. That's human. But what's not acceptable is a pattern. Showing up late every time, offering excuses instead of a tea making. You wait without even acknowledging it, because behind that behavior, there's often something deeper. A lack of self-discipline, a quiet entitlement, a disregard for other people's boundaries, a belief, whether conscious or not, that their time matters. Maritha, not just managing time poorly, they're managing your expectations poorly. And over time, if you allow it, it starts to teach you something dangerous. What you're really being taught: if you tolerate someone wasting your time consistently, you're not just being patient. You're being trained to expect less, to tolerate delay, to quietly devalue your own schedule. And here's a Stoic truth worth remembering. If you don't value your own time, don't expect anyone else to. The Stoics teach, control what you can. And you can control this. Who gets access to your minutes? The Stoic response: respect time, reclaim power. A Stoic doesn't chase. They don't wait endlessly. They don't lower their standards to fit someone else's chaos. When lateness becomes a pattern, not an accident, it needs to be addressed. Here are 3 Stoic practices to handle disrespectful lateness with calm strength. 1. Stop. Covering for them when they're late. Don't mask the awkwardness with small talk. Don't pretend it's fine. Let the silence speak. Your calm presence, sitting there without apology, sends a clear, quiet message. I noticed, and I respect myself enough not to normalize this, to address it clearly, not emotionally pick a calm moment. No drama, no outburst, just truth. Say something like, when you're regularly late, it makes me feel like my time doesn't matter to you. You're not blaming, you're naming. And that clarity is powerful. Step 3. Change your behavior, not theirs. Here's one of the hardest Stoic truths. You can't force someone to value your time, but you can stop giving it away so freely. If someone is always late, don't wait for them. Start the meeting without them. Leave after 10 minutes. Stop scheduling your day around their chaos. In fact, you might even tell them an earlier start time. And when they push back, you calmly say, you've made it clear you operate on your own schedule. I'm just doing the same. This isn't revenge. This is a structured response. You're not reacting with frustration. You're establishing boundaries quietly, consistently, without apology. But what if you're the one who's always late? Now it's time to turn inward, because Stoicism always begins with the self. If you're constantly showing up late, don't excuse it with, I'm just bad with time. That's not a personality trait. That's a habit. Ask yourself, if I truly respected the people in my life and myself, would I still be arriving like this? Start small. Aim to arrive 5 minutes early, not just on time. Say, thank you for your patience, instead of sorry, traffic. Reflect not just on how you feel, but how your delay affects others. Because self-respect begins with how you show up, not just physically, but in your preparation and presence. Final reflection: be on time for others and for yourself. Time is not just measured in hours. It's measured in energy, trust, and priority. When someone is chronically late, they're saying, you can wait for me. And when you keep letting it slide, you're saying, yes, my time is less valuable. That stops here. Let others be late. Let them rush. Let them explain. You show up on time, not to impress them, but to express who you are, a person of order, a person of clarity, a person of quiet power. Because, as Marcus Aurelius would remind us, don't waste what you can never get back. When silence becomes emotional manipulation, we've all been there. You send a message, no reply. You speak your truth and get met with cold silence. Not because they're busy, not because they need space, but because they want you to feel the absence. This is not Stoic silence. This is calculated withdrawal, used to create anxiety. It's a tool of control, not of clarity. The weaponization of silence and why it hurts so much. In healthy relationships, silence is a sanctuary. It creates space for reflection, peace, and understanding. But in toxic dynamics, silence becomes something darker. The silent treatment, the emotional freeze-out, the figure-it-out-yourself tactic. And the worst part, it's all done without a single word, but cuts deeper than any shout ever could. Why does it hurt so badly? Because it strikes at one of our deepest human needs: connection, closure. When someone you care about pulls away in silence, you start to doubt yourself. You chase their attention. You replay every conversation. You feel like you're being punished without even knowing what you did wrong. This is emotional manipulation, and it's designed to make you bend. When silence stops being respectful and becomes manipulative, they suddenly go silent after a disagreement. No warning, they use silence to shift blame without ever explaining why. And instead of feeling calm, in their silence, you feel controlled. This isn't noble self-restraint. It's passive-aggressive manipulation. And the longer you sit in that silence, hoping for resolution, the more power you unknowingly give away. How a Stoic responds to manipulative. Silence. You don't fall apart. You don't chase closure. And you absolutely don't mirror their behavior. Instead, you respond with clarity, not craving, boundaries, not begging. Here are 3 Stoic actions to reclaim your power in moments of emotional silence. 1. Acknowledge. But don't internalize when someone withdraws communication as punishment. Don't turn inward with blame. Turn inward with clarity. Say to yourself, their silence speaks about them, not me. I am not responsible for decoding what they refuse to express. This gives you emotional distance, and distance is the beginning of freedom. 2. Offer 1. Chance for dialogue, calm and clear. Sometimes silence stems from fear or uncertainty. So, you extend an opportunity. If something's wrong, I'm here to talk. If not, I'll continue with my day. That's it. No essays, no pleading. You offer space, not submission. 3. Detach and protect your energy. The Stoic response is not to emotionally withdraw, but to refuse emotional engagement with manipulation. You stop checking your phone every 5 minutes. You stop filling in the blanks with assumptions. You stop wondering if their silence means you're not enough. Instead, you fill the silence with your life. You read, you walk, you create, you grow, because no one deserves to live rent-free in your mind, especially in silence. When should you choose silence? When speaking would only escalate the conflict. When you've already said everything that needs to be said. When peace matters more than pride. But remember, silence should come from self-respect, not from a desire to control. If you go silent just to make someone question themselves, you're not being stoic, you're being strategic. In a harmful way, true Stoic silence is clean, intentional, and detached. Final reflection. Don't let their silence disrupt your stillness. The Stoics taught us that calm is strength, but that calm must be rooted in virtue, not fear, not manipulation. So, when someone goes silent to punish you, you don't need to fix it. You simply observe and respond like someone who knows their worth. You never need to raise your voice. You never need to chase their reply. Just remember, the loudest power is the one that speaks through stillness. But only when that stillness is yours, not theirs. You've heard it before. Relax. It's just a joke. Don't be so sensitive. Come on, we're just having fun. But deep down, it didn't feel like fun. It felt like a jab dressed in a smile. A public joke that stung with a laugh track you never agreed to. And when you finally speak up, they retreat behind the classic excuse, I was just joking. When jokes aren't jokes at all, they say something like, wow, you actually pulled that off. What they really mean is, you're not usually capable. They toss out a so-called compliment like, you're actually kinda smart when you try. But the hidden message, most of the time, I don't see you as intelligent. Or the most common, public roasting masked as camaraderie. Come on, it's just banter. We all roast each other. What they're really testing is, how far can I push you without facing consequences? Why we often laugh it off, and why that's dangerous. You might laugh along, not because it's funny, but because confrontation feels harder. You don't want to be seen as too sensitive. You were taught to take a joke and not make it a big deal. But here's the Stoic truth. What you allow, you teach. Every time you laugh at disrespect, you reinforce it. And every time you smile just to keep the peace, you trade a piece of your dignity. And over time, quietly, invisibly, your standards start to erode. How a Stoic responds to insults disguised as humor. The Stoic doesn't need to shout, shame, or retaliate. They respond with clarity, grounded presence, and firm boundaries. Let's look at 3 Stoic ways to handle disrespect masked as jokes. 1. Call it out. Calmly and clearly say something like, "That didn't feel like a joke to me. I know you may not have meant harm, but it landed differently. Let's keep things respectful." The tone, not angry, but firm. You're not attacking them. You're simply protecting your boundary. And if their response is to mock you more, laugh it off, or dismiss your feelings, they're showing you exactly who they are. Believe them. 2. Exit the arena. Withdraw your energy if someone consistently uses humor to belittle you. Stop playing the game. Change the subject. Leave the conversation. Refuse to laugh your silence. Your refusal to engage speaks louder than any comeback. The Stoic leads by example, not escalation. 3. Redraw the line. Let the consequences speak. Eventually, someone who hides behind humor to disrespect you must face natural consequences, not rage, but reality. You stop showing up to their table. You stop sharing your vulnerability. You elevate your standards, quietly and without justification. And when they say, "You've changed," you simply say, "Yes, I've grown." The inner work, detached from the need to be liked. So why do these jokes sting so deeply? Because deep down, you want their approval. You want to feel accepted. You want to belong. But the Stoics knew approval is a trap. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." You don't need to be everyone's favorite. You just need to be respected, starting with yourself. Final reflection. Not all laughter is harmless. The world teaches us to prize humor, but Stoicism teaches us to prize truth over comfort. Joke that wounds is a revelation, not of who you are, but of who they are. You have every right to raise your standard, to protect your dignity, and to refuse to be the punchline of someone else's insecurity. Because true strength isn't in taking it, it's in knowing what you'll never allow again. Bonus insight. The assumption you owe people your time there is a dangerous, often silent belief that some people carry. You're supposed to be available to me. You owe me a reply, a meeting, your time. But here's the Stoic truth. You owe nothing except the wise use of your time, and you must protect it because your life depends on it. Seneca reminds us, people are frugal in guarding their property, but not their time. The trap of being constantly available and how burnout begins. People don't always demand your presence with words. Sometimes it's in their tone, their expectations, or the pressure they silently place on you. And if you're not aware of it, you'll find yourself over-explaining why you can't help, apologizing for needing rest, feeling guilty for setting boundaries, abandoning your own priorities just to keep the peace. That's how emotional burnout begins. Not from doing too much, but from doing too much for those who act entitled to you. Why we let it happen. because you don't want to be seen as selfish, because you genuinely care, because you were raised to be polite, helpful, and available. But the Stoics didn't live to please. They lived to act with reason, virtue, and clarity of purpose. Seneca wrote, "People guard their possessions carefully, but when it comes to wasting time, they're most reckless." And the greatest form of self-disrespect is this: giving away your focus, peace, and energy to those who never earned it. How a Stoic reclaims their time without guilt. This isn't about being cold. It's about being clear. It's not about abandoning people. It's about prioritizing your direction over their emotional chaos. Here are 3 powerful ways a Stoic protects their time. 1. Say no. Without a performance, you don't need dramatic explanations or lengthy excuses. Just say, "I'm not available right now. This isn't something I can help with today. Let's reconnect another time." No guilt, no over-apologizing, no justifying being human. Your time is not a donation. It's an investment. 2. Create a time barrier. The Stoics structured their days with rituals and discipline, not just for productivity, but for inner clarity. You can do the same. Turn on Do Not Disturb during deep work or rest. Set specific hours for responding to messages. Block off sacred time for reflection, rest, or personal growth. Don't break that time for emotional drainers. When people realize you're not always reachable, they'll either respect your boundaries or reveal their disregard. Let time reflect mutual respect. You don't have to cut people off harshly. Let access to your time be a mirror. If someone values your energy, you naturally make space. If they drain or guilt you, space will shrink. And that's fair. Your calendar reflects your values. And a Stoic doesn't let guilt override those values. A Stoic reminder: you weren't born to be always available. You are not a customer service hotline. You are not a therapist on demand. You are not obligated to be on call 24/7. Don't let yourself be pulled in every direction. The only thing you are truly responsible for is your own reason and intention. Marcus Aurelius' final reflection: time management is self-respect. People who truly love and respect you will not be offended by your boundaries, because they have their own. The people who guilt you for protecting your time never sought connection, they sought control. The Stoics understood presence is powerful, but only when it is intentional. Helping others is noble, but not when it requires betraying yourself, because time is not just currency, it is life itself. So, next time someone acts like you owe them your hours, your energy, or your attention, pause, breathe, and remember, you owe only one thing: your best self. And that version of you only shows up when you protect your peace first. What you tolerate becomes your culture. As Marcus Aurelius taught, the quality of your inner world is directly shaped by your environment. And your environment, it's shaped by your responses. Every relationship, spoken or unspoken, has a culture. And if someone interrupts you and you stay silent, undermines you and you laugh along, expects your time and you always give in, crosses your boundaries and you don't speak up, then you're not just letting it slide. You're speaking a language, one that silently says, I'll adapt to your disrespect, because avoiding discomfort feels safer than defending my self-worth. The Stoic way: hold the mirror. Not the sword. Stoicism doesn't teach us to confront every offense with force. It teaches us to hold up a mirror to both ourselves and others and ask, What am I allowing that is disturbing my peace? What message am I silently sending by staying silent? What pattern am I reinforcing through my inaction? Seneca once said, "Associate with those who will make you better, and welcome those whom you can help improve. For the process is mutual. People learn as they teach. But if someone is teaching you to shrink, to doubt yourself, to numb your inner voice, then maybe it's time to change the lesson. Because here's a difficult truth. Patterns don't stop just because they hurt. They stop when they're no longer rewarded. Boundaries aren't about being harsh. They're about being clear. People rarely stop disrespecting you out of guilt. They stop when it no longer serves them. So, if you keep tolerating, the jokes won't stop, the silence won't soften, the guilt trips won't disappear. Not because you deserve mistreatment, but because you've unconsciously created a system where disrespect has no consequence. And in any system, what's rewarded is repeated. Stop speaking the language of self-betrayal. You can be kind and firm, compassionate and clear, forgiving and self-respecting. These aren't contradictions. They are boundaries guided by wisdom. So the next time someone interrupts your thoughts, dismisses your feelings, undermines your growth, takes your peace for granted, just swallow it. Don't overanalyze it. Interrupt the pattern. Say clearly, "Hey, I don't appreciate being spoken to that way. That joke didn't land well with me. I'm setting new boundaries around how I use my time." Not to create drama, but to re-educate the dynamic. A word of warning: not everyone will celebrate the new you once you stop tolerating disrespect. Two things happen. The right people rise with you. The wrong people resist and reveal themselves. They might say, "You've changed. You're so cold now. You're too sensitive." But what they really mean is, "I can't benefit from your silence anymore." And that's the point. Final Stoic insight. Stoic doesn't shout to be heard. He speaks once, clearly, and then lets his boundaries do the rest. You don't need to raise your voice. You need to raise your standards, because at the end of the day, what you tolerate teaches the world how to treat you, not once, but over and over. So if you're tired of the cycle, change the language. Let your silence be intentional. Let your no be non-negotiable. Let your peace become your policy. Here's the final truth. What you allow becomes your standard. What you ignore becomes your boundary. What you endure becomes your reputation. The world doesn't respond to your intentions. It responds to how you show up. And every time you stay quiet when your peace is violated, you're not just avoiding conflict, you're quietly training the world to treat you less than you deserve. We've reached the final part. In the previous section, we uncovered a hard truth. Every time you stay silent about disrespect, you're teaching others how to treat you. But from this moment forward, let it be different. Let your silence be a choice, not a reaction. Let your boundaries be sacred, not up for negotiation. Let your energy serve your growth, not your guilt. Because you weren't born to be liked by everyone. You're here to live with clarity, with dignity, and with strength. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Epic video spoke to something deep inside you. Drop a fire emoji in the comments if you're ready to reclaim your power. Share this video with someone who's been tolerating too much for too long. And subscribe if you're walking this stoic path with us. Because this isn't just a video. It's a declaration. A declaration that you will no longer shrink to make others feel tall. You will no longer stay silent just to keep the peace. You will stand tall so that others may rise with you, quietly powerful, Fiercely calm, unshakably you.